months back, before the world went up in flames, I was lucky enough to be treated to a theater screening of a 1928 silent film called Bareknees. It's a zany, romantic, dramatic adventure about Billy, an outgoing flapper who returns home and hijinks ensues. And boy, do I mean hijinks. There's a dinner party, a speakeasy, an affair, a baseball game, and a roller coaster ride through towering infernos of burning boardwalk. That kind of results in one of the best cinematic scenes I think I've actually ever seen. And then, while enjoying the live piano music, theater popcorn, and genuine human contact, I saw this coat in this scene, and I just knew I need that. So, yeah, that's what we're doing today. Yeah, this coat, yeah. Now, for any new project, you're gonna need your supplies. So luckily for me, I already own a coat similar to the one in this film that I can actually repurpose for these uses. Other than the coat, I'm also going to need another major supply, and that is fur. Now, I was lucky enough to find a secondhand store that was selling a fur skirt. So I grabbed my camera and I went on an adventure. Now, if you'd like to do this project, you can use whatever material you would like, whether that's real or faux fur. I, however, will be opting to use real fur, as I do strive to try to use natural materials in all of my projects. Now, faux fur, not to go on too much of a tangent, is a synthetic polymer fiber, usually made out of acrylic, monocrylic, polymers, and unfortunately their production and sometimes their discarding can cause a problem for the environment. I'll actually leave literature in the bottom in case you're interested in learning more on this process. So obviously up to you, you can use whatever you would like as a material. I, however, will be using real fur, and to kind of mitigate the guilt that comes with using real fur, I'll actually be using second-hand products. So, gonna be buying something that was already made and not really supporting the fur company through this process or this project. While we walk, let's talk about the movie. Bareknees is a 1928 American silent comedy drama film directed by Ari C. Kenton, a lesser-known filmmaker who was actually in charge of 131 films that were made between 1919 and 1950, and was starring an actress by the name of Virginia Lee Corbin, a silent film star who, like many, couldn't quite make that transition into sound. Bareknees is one of the more unapologetic flapper films. Instead of the flapper being a sign of moral destruction, the film makes her to be this happy, witty, funny, and ultimately well-meaning person who just doesn't agree with her old, stuffy morals of the time. In fact, the opening has a dedication that shows just how enamored the filmmakers were with the new age of womanhood. Dedicated to the American flapper. God bless her and dress her. Back at home with all of my materials, I can get started by deconstructing them to put together my coat. It's a pretty easy process. The first thing I actually have to do is move the button, as my coat has a central button, and the original one that I'm basing it off of actually has a button far off to the side, which creates an overlapping effect on the front of the coat. So simply, I take my scissors, cut the strings, move the button 3 inches to the left, and I start to sew it back down. Alright, with my button now in place, we get to go to the fun part, adding the trim. So using my scissors, I'm going to start seam ripping and splitting the skirt in half, just to open it up and remove things like the zipper or the pockets that are just going to get in the way later. I got lucky when I bought this skirt. Once it's split in half, it's actually long enough to wrap around the lower half of my coat. So I don't need to do any crazy reconfiguring and Frankensteining with this project. I also got lucky in that the way it was made, it actually has these horizontal patterns put into the fur itself. So I can use those to cut my horizontal lines perfectly without having to use a ruler or anything fussy like that. Once everything is cut, I pin it into place, making sure that everything is level and pretty, and then I can quickly whip stitch it all by hand. And, believe it or not, we're done. That's it. It's a pretty easy, simple project, but the end product is exactly what I wanted, which just goes to show that with a little creativity, you can slowly build that wardrobe you've dreamed about. And hey, if it isn't your thing, well, at the very least, you gotta learn about a new movie, maybe have something new to watch in this wild and crazy time of Netflix binges and nothing else. But seriously, go see Bareknees. It's a silent film, it's fun, it gets your mind off things for a little bit, and it's free. You can find it online. And if you can't find it for free online, buy yourself a DVD. They're fairly cheap. Not anything crazy. It's definitely worth it to learn a little bit about history, see what people liked, both in the movie world and in the real world, and at the very least, you can see what it's like to smoke on a runaway roller coaster. If you do, be sure to tell me what you think in the comments down below, especially of that ending. But until our next adventure, please be safe and have some fun.